Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to part 9 of the Bible study series. Man, we are in Genesis, picking up in chapter 12 today. And this is amazing. I am so excited about this right here. And I know I sound like I'm on repeat saying this. I feel like I say it every single time we turn the page and get into a new chapter about how this is key and how it changes everything and how it's going to shape, the rest of the entire Bible and our lives. But folks, this is going to happen again right here, and it's such an amazing thing, and it's about who we are going to be introduced to, who we are about to meet. And it's not so much that it's going to change everything, but it's key in the sense of how it begins to give us more clarity. When we talk about the whole picture and purpose of the Bible, and of of us, everything that's going on, and the purpose of everything, right? This right here, starting right here in chapter 12, is where we start to get a little bit more clarity on this whole picture. And it's kind of like, going to the eye doctor, and you sit in front of that, big goofy machine, and you put your, eyes, and you're looking at this blurry picture, and the doctor starts putting lenses in front of your eyes, and the picture starts getting more and more clear with each lens, right, until all of a sudden it's like boom, and it's like you've got x-ray vision almost. And this right here, folks, starting here in chapter 12, this is one of those lenses, right, that God gives us in order to bring just the picture into such focus, right? And there's such amazing details that we're going to start to see. And again, we can step back, and it's going to be like, wow, it really starts to sink in, and we start to understand everything, how the story of the Bible is just so meant for us, and the purpose of it all. It's amazing. So you may have noticed, we started to get an introduction, near the end of chapter 11, coming out of it, right? And here we go. We're going to meet this man, and that's like, okay, we just came out of meeting Noah, who was this amazing blessing to mankind and creation, everything, and a man of such faith and whatnot. But guys, I am telling you right here, you want to write this man's name down, etc., underline it, highlight it, because other than Jesus, this man carries the greatest name in the Bible. Okay? And we're going to find out why, trust me. But just everything that happens is such an amazing thing. The calling that God puts on this man's life, and what he is going to do with and through him, it's everything. It truly is. So you might want to get a bookmarker, a permanent one, and just put it here. You could probably do that for so many chapters, in the Bible, but you definitely want to put one here, because this is it, folks. You remember, all the way at the beginning of this Bible study series, in the introduction video to Genesis, we talked about how it's the story of, part of it's the story of God and his relationship with all of creation, all of mankind. And then we're going to get to this point where we dive in, and we're focused on God's relationship with one man and his family, and how all of this shapes and leads us to building a people for God himself that are going to represent him, and ultimately leading us to where Jesus Christ, that promised seed, is going to come from. And here it begins. So boom, exclamation point. This is huge, trust me. Okay, so I'm excited about it. I hope you guys are as well. And here we go. Don't forget to pray before diving into this, as always. Okay, so here we go, chapter 12. And it is the call of Abram. Remember the calling, onto Abram's life. And this is how we are being introduced to him right off the bat in chapter 12. The Lord had said to Abram, "Leave your country, your relatives, and your father's family, your father's household, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, make your name great, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, and all the families on earth will be blessed through you. Man, if that's not an introduction to someone, like, right, we don't have a lot of information, on this guy, except of what we're getting from this calling, from God onto his life. This is huge, folks. Look at this. We're going to dive into it. This is absolutely everything. The magnitude of this. We're going to, I know you might not understand it all right now, what this is talking about. Trust me, we are going to find out, but this is huge. This is everything. And notice this, the first thing that I want to point out is with God's calling. First, with his calling. Before that, there's the command. So before, like with the calling, first comes the command. So before anything that God is going to do for or with or through Abram, this man Abram, the Lord is saying, Abram, here's what you are going to have to do. This is the command on your life, right? So he's calling him this way. And it's similar. You think back to Noah, right? Doesn't that kind of seem similar to how God called Noah as well? It's like, hey, there's this promise. I'm going to make this covenant and promise with you, okay? But Noah, here's what you're going to have to do. Follow my instructions. You're going to have to listen. You're going to have to live and walk with such faith and obedience. And if you do, here is what's going to happen. Here's what I am going to do. Here's the same thing. Okay, Abram, you're going to have to do all this. You're going to have to listen, trust, complete faith in me. And if you do so, oh my goodness, check out what I am going to do. Here's this covenant, a promise that I am going to make with you. Okay, so let's check this out. Let's notice that the command, that he gives Abram. 4 things. 1, leave your home country. Leave your relatives, all your friends behind. Leave your father's family, his household. The covering and protection, security of your father's household. You got to leave that. And then 4th, go to this land that I will show you. Right? That's crazy. 4th thing is like, you're going to go to this land that I'm going to show you. He doesn't say what it is right now. Go to this land called blank. No, he just says, go to this land that I will show you. And like, man, this is insane. So let's kind of try and, I like to try and put ourselves in the shoes of these people. And I know it's hard, but think about Abram right here. Okay, we obviously know that God sees something very special at the heart of Abram in order for such a calling like this. Right? Obviously, Abram, we know that he's from the line of Shem, who Noah greatly blessed, right? So from this line, oh man, these were a people, that were blessed, had, communion and fellowship with God, and, the preaching of God coming down through Noah and everything. Man, these were people Abram was following in line. So there was already a foundation of a relationship there between the Lord and Abram. Okay. And so, man, Lord is seeing something absolutely incredible in this man and what he's asking him to do, for sacrifice right off the bat. The command on Abram's life, right, is to make such sacrifice. You're going to have to leave everything that you have been accustomed to, that you have grown up with. Basically he's saying, Abram, you're going to have to leave your comfort zone. Okay? and just walk in complete faith and trust in me and just go. You're going to have to go to this land that I will eventually show you. Okay, you know, think about that. Think about that perspective from Abram's perspective. If you're hearing this, leaving everything that you've known behind. Okay, so man, that's a huge thing. But God follows up. Look at how the Lord follows up with this. He says, I will make you into a great nation. So, one, you're going to have to leave your nation. You're going to have to leave your country. Okay, you're going to have to give that up, leave that behind. But I am going to make you into a great nation. Right? All of your relatives and friends that you are blessed with, everything that you've had here, you know, all of that, you're going to have to leave that, but I will bless you. All the people that you're leaving behind, your family, everyone that knows you, you know, here in your family and in your country, neighbors, etc. All these people that know you, now you're going to have to go and become unknown, a stranger, a foreigner, you know, into this other land. But Abram, I will make you known. I will make you famous. I will make your name great. And you will become a blessing to others. So everything, oh, that's amazing. Check that out. Everything that the Lord was commanding Abram to leave behind, he was also comforting him at the same time and saying, I'm going to give you something even greater. Okay? And man, that is crazy. He even says, he gives him this like divine or like, you know, this bubble of, you know, divine protection in verse 3 when he says, hey, I'm going to bless those who bless you, right? I'll lift anyone up who lifts you up, helps you along. But anyone who curses you or comes across you, hey, they better watch out. So look what he's doing there. He's like, I've got you, Abram, okay? Trust me. And a big thing here, all the families on earth will be blessed through you. So notice that you're going to have to make a personal sacrifice and leave everyone that you love behind and go and be a foreigner. You're going to be a stranger in this land, but I'm going to make you into this great nation and bless you, make you famous. And the blessing will not only be for you, but it will be for all families on earth by what I am doing through you. Now, here's the thing. We know, kind of looking forward, what we know of the Bible, this is absolutely huge. We kind of want to think, maybe assume that Abram understood the magnitude of this, and that last line there, all the families on earth will be blessed through you. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. We don't know. But we do know that the story, remember that seed, that promise that the Lord made in chapter 3 of that seed that was to come. We know that that message, that promise was being passed down. Trust me, it's going to come up again, okay? So we know that people that had, that were praying, continually worshiping and having fellowship and communion with the Lord, this type of thing, people that were dedicated to serving, having a relationship with the Lord, we know that promise was continually being passed along through these lines and everything. Okay, so when it's talking about here, all the families on earth will be blessed through you, guys, that is talking about that seed in chapter 3, and we sort of picked up on it there in the last few chapters, the descendants of Shem, and how from Shem, remember that Noah, he greatly and abundantly blessed Shem. You know, he cursed Canaan, and he greatly blessed Shem and Japheth, right? And here we know that Abram comes from the line of Shem. Okay, and from this line, eventually, all are going to come the greatest name of all ever, our Savior Jesus Christ. And so right here, all the families on earth will be blessed through you. That is what it's talking about right there. This is pointing all the way to Jesus. I don't know if Abram knew, but think of the magnitude of that. Okay, just wanted to point that out. So that's incredible. So hang on to that for a second, all right? The next thing that I want to point out is this is remember in chapter 11 when we kind of had the question of, remember God is giving the account of all this. And it's like, well, why do we have an account of this Babylon and this tower and these people that wicked if God just ended up dispersing them and disrupted that whole plan and it just never happened? Kind of what was the point? And we dove into one layer of it, the reason behind it. God is showing us something deeper there. There's a message there that we need to get. And obviously meeting that character, Nimrod and everything, and, his pride and what he was after, trying to be like God and that whole thing, and how these people were trying to, build a kingdom for themselves, build Babylon and build this great city and tower and make themselves famous and all this and that, and God says, nope, we're not going to do this out of their own pride. They were being so wicked in their own pride and idolatry to themselves, right? Wanting to make themselves famous and everything. And so, boom, God shut that down. And notice, this is so crazy how right when we turn the page, what God is doing right here, can you see how this is a response to that? So let's go a level deeper, that these people right here in their wickedness, acting out in such pride in an idolatrous way, lifting themselves up, trying to make a great nation, a great people, a great name, being famous, for themselves. God was not a part of this, right? So God smashed that, and he says, this is how I do it. Right? You wicked people, it's not people that have no part of me, right? You are not going to be lifted up. You will be dispersed, disbanded. And he says, this tells us about something about Abram right here, right? Because he's taken someone who had fellowship, who was righteous and was, had a relationship with the Lord. And he says, look, this is how I will make a great nation, how I will bless someone, and how I will make them famous, make a great name for them, and how they will just absolutely bless everyone on the earth. So that is such a crazy thing that didn't dawn on me until I was writing the notes down for all of this. It just how all of that connects from chapter 11, how this is like the response to mankind's wickedness and their pride and idolatrous ways. And God says, no, this is how I work and how I will lift up people who are with me. Everything that you are trying to do in the wrong way, I am going to do right in my way, and watch how it's done. So that is awesome. Kind of a cool nugget there. Something to think about, and man, such a cool thing. So here we go. Abram, he's just been called by the Lord to do such a massive thing, to leave everything, and then also God's covenant and promise to him, okay, is right here. And I love what happens next in verse 4. It says, after all that, so Abram departed as the Lord had instructed. And I love that, right? It's like, there's no question. There's no, it's just like Noah. When God gave the command and the call, Noah just got to work. He started going. And here we go. Such a massive command and call. And Abram, here we go. He's going. All right, so he gets everything together. Lot, his nephew, Lot, his wife, Sarai, all of his wealth, all the livestock and all the people that he had taken into his household, and they headed for the land of Canaan. Ding, ding, ding. Remember that, guys? The land of Canaan. And so when they arrived in Canaan, all right, they noticed the whole area, it was inhabited by Canaanites. So remember, now Abram, he's this stranger, he's this foreigner, and he's going into a land of Canaanites where we already have a glimpse of this line, these people, who they were, is kind of shaky. It wasn't so great and everything, but this was a great land. Okay, so he's in the midst of this, in this land, of this whole area that was inhabited by these people, the Canaanites. And watch what the Lord does in verse 7. It says, "Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will give this land to your descendants." And so Abram built an altar there and dedicated it to the Lord who had appeared to him. Okay, so he's a foreigner in this land. And remember back, at the beginning of the chapter when God said, "Go to the land that I will show you." So here we go, folks. Abram is in the land of Canaan. This is key. This is huge. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "This is the land, Abram. This is it. This land of Canaan, I will give." And notice how he says, it's not saying that I will give it to you. The Lord says, I will give this land to your descendants. Okay? And that's key there. I wanted to bring this up so that we can kind of sit with this for a second, because I think a lot of times, especially today, you hear it so many times when people talk about the calling that God has placed on their lives. You ever notice how it's primarily about doing something and receiving, something as a result of what they're doing in their lifetime, type of thing? And here we got to think, because we're starting to get the idea with, Abram being made into a great nation, being blessed, having a great name, being a blessing to all the families on earth, and that this land of Canaan will be given to his descendants. That this type of calling was something that was going to have a future fulfillment to it. That this possibly might be something that Abram himself would not see completely fulfilled in his lifetime. Okay, so I kind of think that's an important thing, that perspective to think about when we're talking about this man Abram here, and just how I think that he really grasped, the importance of all of this to a degree. Because we're going to see when we talk about sacrifice and how much faith and obedience he is going to have when it comes to, and the Lord, man, we're going to get into some stuff, but he continues on, and it's something that you got to think that he knows is expected for a future fulfillment, something that he may not even be a part of, while he is here on this earth alive. And that's crazy to think about. You got to think how many people would still continue to go through if they knew that the calling on their lives was something that the result or the reward, or I don't want to say compensation, but the blessing, that God is going to do through your life is something that you will not even experience to its fullest. It's something that is later on down the line for someone else. Do we have enough faith, enough trust, and enough love and loyalty to continue on with that type of calling? Man, that's a big thing. So think about that. I wrote that down. That's something that I've had to check myself on quite a bit here lately. So a big thing there, something just to think about and pray on. Okay. So I love this. It says after that, I'll give this land to your descendants. And it said, and so Abram built an altar there and dedicated it to the Lord who appeared to him. Okay, it'll pick up on this again. It says after that in verse 8, Abram traveled south and set up camp in the hill country, between Bethel and another city. And so there he built another altar and dedicated it to the Lord, and he worshiped the Lord. Okay, so quick time out. This is telling us a little bit more, giving us some more insight into Abram, who he was. So this is telling us that Abram, he had fellowship and communion with God. He was constantly and continually, setting aside time and the importance, just like Noah did. Remember, the first thing when he got off the ark was set up an altar and worshiped the Lord, gave back and offered sacrifice to him. Okay, and so Abram, he's got this instilled in him. He knows the importance of this. And I wanted to point this out. This is a huge thing, folks. And I'll start with what the study Bible says. This hit me like a ton of bricks. Very important thing is that it says Abram regularly built altars to God for two reasons. One, for prayer and worship, and two, as reminders of God's promise to bless him. Abram could not survive spiritually without regularly renewing his love and loyalty to God. So building altars helped Abram remember that God was at the center of his life. So in the midst of all of this, going into foreign land and everything and all of these promises, Abram is continuing to just dedicate time to pray and to worship and to give back, to come into fellowship with him, and also to remind himself of everything that's going on, right? And that God, what's at the center of all of this. And this is what hit me. I wrote this down. When nowadays it seems like there tends to be this conflict, this discussion of conflict and such disagreement when it comes to this. It's not religion, it's a relationship. Okay, that religion is almost like it should have no part in our lives any longer. And what I gotta say to that is, what is this right here? Noah and Abram, and what is being passed down here. These are religious acts that are taking place. This was a part of religion for Abram, and check this out. This is key. That this part of religion, these religious acts, it was religion that was to strengthen the relationship. Okay, and I get it. I used to think the same way, like most people. It's not religion, it's relationship. But guys, religious acts, religion is in the Word. These are things that the greats like Noah and Abram and everyone that they did. This is in the Word. Religion, doing things religiously, is a part of having a strong relationship with God. Okay, these aren't two separate things, and we certainly should not look at religion, as like this bad thing, like just, that we've got it all figured out. No. Religion is religious things. Religion like this, the true religion, the way that it is done here in this Word, is to strengthen, to renew, and his love and loyalty to God, to remember, God's promises, for our lives. Okay, And I get it. I understand part of that is that there's certain things out there in religion that absolutely do nothing to strengthen our relationship with the Lord. They don't. I understand that that's out there. But folks, you got to understand that there is a true and right way to do things, to live with a religion and do religious things that will strengthen our relationship with the Lord. Okay? That is something very important and that we need to be able to see out of all of this instead of just disregarding it and saying, oh no, we've got it. It's just relationship. You know, no, guys, these are things that were done to strengthen, to solidify, to constantly remind us and renew that relationship and everything around it. Okay? All right, so moving on to verse 9, it says that then Abram continued traveling south by stages toward the Negev. And at that time, a severe famine struck the land of Canaan, forcing Abram to go down to Egypt, where he lived as a foreigner. Now, quick time out, folks. This is where we're going to see something, okay? Remember, we met Noah. He was blameless, he was righteous, a relationship with God, but he was not perfect. We saw how he had some mishaps and mistakes, okay? And here we've met Abram and we know the great promise, and oh, he's already acted with such faith and everything, such dedication and devotion to the Lord. Oh, but we're going to see a little bit of a blemish from here as well. So we're going to see how this plays out. At the same time, we're going to see how God, turns everything and gets everything going back on the right track. So watch this. It says, as he was approaching the border of Egypt, Abram said to his wife Sarai, look, you are very beautiful. You're a very beautiful woman. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Let's kill him, and then we can have her. So please tell them you are my sister. Then they will spare my life and treat me well because of their interest in you. And sure enough, when Abram arrived in Egypt, everyone noticed Sarai's beauty. And the palace officials saw her, and they told Pharaoh all about her. And so Pharaoh took Sarai into his palace. And so what happens after that is exactly what Abram was saying, is that then Pharaoh, he gave Abram many gifts because of her: sheep, goats, cattle, male donkeys, female donkeys, even male and female servants. Okay? And so look at what's going on here. Okay? Abram is covering up the truth. He is hiding the truth and putting a lie out there, right, about his wife. And so we start to see, right, that, and this was for his own interest. He was thinking about his own life here. And we start to see when he's faced with an obstacle, this was like a big mountain to him. And apparently this is something he was aware of. Maybe this was going on around, in different areas when, other men from, they see a beautiful woman and they'll just kill the husband and take her as their own wife and whatnot. So maybe this was something he was aware of. So here we go. Fear starts to creep in through the cracks, and his faith starts to leak out. So instead of completely trusting in God here, right, and remember the promise and everything, that divine bubble of protection and whatnot, oh, those cracks, fear started to come in, and his faith started to leak out. All right, so instead of trusting in God, he takes things into his own hands. And watch it, how this is all going to turn out, and how God starts to turn the situation back to the way that it needs to go. So Abram gets treated well and everything, and Sarai is taken into Pharaoh's palace and whatnot. Verse 17, but the Lord sent terrible plagues upon Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Abram's wife. All right, so God did not like what was going on. This was not the right direction. This was not what, what even he was ordered to do. This was not God's will. This was exposing Sarai, Abram's wife, and Pharaoh, his household, to sin. This was exposing everyone to sin. So God had to put a stop to this. So he sends plagues upon Pharaoh and his house. And Pharaoh's like, Abram, he brings him. He's like, dude, what have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? So apparently, through these plagues or through divine intervention, Pharaoh found out. Okay, he was told this is Abram's wife. He's like, why did you say she is my sister and allow me to take her, as her wife or as my wife? He's like, here now, here is your wife. Take her and get out of here. Okay, so Pharaoh ordered some of his men to escort them out, and he sent Abram out of the country along with his wife and all of his possessions. So that ends chapter 12, and we see there at the end where even a man of such great faith and obedience in God, when faced with something where we fear for he feared for his life, and that instead of having faith in the Lord, he let fear in and faith leak out, right? And he took things into his own hands and did what he thought was best, instead of walking in faith of the promises that God put on his life. And that was exposing the whole situation just to sin and go down the wrong path. Okay, because Pharaoh took Sarai into his household and everything like that, and eventually he could have slept with her, and boom, that would have led to just majorly just some bad things going on. So the Lord intervenes. He sets things back on track and intervenes and gets things going back the way that he needs them to, so that his promises and everything that he says will be fulfilled. And that is an amazing thing, that even in our mess ups like that, his promises are going to be fulfilled. He's going to continue to correct our path and our patterns as we go along. So that's the end of chapter 12. The next video, obviously, we're going to pick up in 13, where we start to meet more about Lot, Abram's nephew, and whatnot. But what I want you to do is, folks, please review back over chapter 12 and really soak this in and think about who we have just met. And a lot of this is going to start to become even more clear just how important this man Abram is. And as far as everything that's going on and whatnot, oh my gosh, and a little bit of mishaps, yeah, there's going to be some of those, right? But the story is incredible, the journey is incredible, and through all of this, we truly see God's divine work, at the root and heart of this, guiding it towards these promises, which is the greatest thing of all. All the families on earth will be blessed through this man, and that's going to come with the seed that was promised in chapter 3, and that's Jesus Christ. So it's so awesome. Think about this, pray over this, and revisit this. Mark this permanently. This is a big thing, okay? And I promise you, it's going to get even better as we continue to go along. So we'll see you next time. Love you guys.